if we're not placing our mind where we want it to be, that's kind of what this is all about, isn't it? Like, this is my mind. I'm going to take it back. I'm going to direct it where I want it to be because I want to create the life that I want to create within the ability and means that I have available, which is probably infinite. But so to Santina's point, that's absolutely correct. And that's what I was realizing that day. I was like, oh, well, I wasn't really doing anything with my mind. I was basically just a leaf at the mercy of the wind. My attention was going here, it was going there. And, by the end of the day, I was starting to judge myself and how's my posture and, how do I look? And, are people judging me? Because I had a social anxiety thing at that time. It was very potent in my experience to constantly be concerned with. And that, of course, is a rabbit hole of my childhood that I'll explain someday, but not right now. It's not important. So Don Juan had this concept that he gave to Carlos Castaneda because he was trying to do the same thing. Carlos Castaneda was attempting to relax his mind, focus his energy, and basically become what Don Juan would say, a warrior. And that's just somebody with impeccable intention and will, somebody who is unshakable, somebody who, when they put their mind to something in a very efficient way, they're able to carry it out without distractions. So Don Juan gave Carlos what he called tricks of attention. And I'll write that in chat. Tricks. And I was getting very frustrated with books like Eckhart Tolle. I was getting very frustrated with books, especially Alan Watts, because they never gave me a technique. Correction, definitely there are some techniques in the power of now. Paying attention to the silence behind the sound and the space behind the object and the emptiness behind the substance, that's not a beginner technique to try to hold throughout the day. Spoiler alert. You may be able to do it when you're in your after your meditation or after your vinyasa yoga or whatever, and now you're all zenned out. Now we're paying attention to the silence. Okay, but what about every other, minute of the day? There's 1,440 minutes, and I've spent 5 of them zenned out. And it's like, how is that going to add up to much? So Don Juan gave Carlos what he called tricks of attention, and they were places in his experience for him to put his mind. So I'm going to explain what that means using this little Canon camera. All right. So I'm going to hold up the camera and I'm going to ask you to, it's blurry, but you can still see it. I want you to place your attention on the camera. That's what I'm talking. Hold your attention there for a moment. So you're just looking at it. That's all you can do, because that's the only sense that I'm able to engage with this, unless you're imagining the camera, which isn't a sense, but we still use imagination. But are you still looking at it? Like, are you still looking at the camera? That's attention. Where you want it to be specifically, because I asked you to do it. But that is essentially alluding to the principle that we can place our attention where we want it to be purposefully, with choice, voluntarily. Like when we breathe, we can breathe involuntarily, or we can take possession of the breath, and it can be a voluntary process as well. It's the same thing with attention. When I was walking with my family, my attention was not voluntary. It was just all over the place. And I was just thinking to myself the entire time. So no wonder I wasn't zenned out. No wonder I didn't feel super relaxed like I wanted to. I was getting nowhere fast, running in place. So realizing that, I started to create what I call points of attention. And that's what today is all about. And I'll put that in the quote, or I need in the chat. Points of attention. This is what the 4 directions is. The 4 directions is 4 distinct categories. And in those categories are our points of attention.